everybody, welcome to
Comic Gamer Movie Show.
And I am here once again.
I know.
This is a rarity.
I know, he's not usually here anymore.
I'm always here, Deshaun.
So that's that thumping.
Don't talk about that. Anyway, so today we have a sci-fi classic today.
Yeah, it's gonna be... Seth wanted to watch it, and Seth wanted to talk about it.
Let me preface this. I saw this movie come out on Netflix. Not come out on Netflix, but it was on Netflix. And I was like, I haven't seen this movie in 15 years.
And I had seen this movie. I just completely forgotten I'd seen it.
Yeah, and I was like, bro, let's watch this and review it for your classics. And we were like, all right, cool. So we are reviewing StarGate, not the show, the original movie with Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell and James Spader.
Spader and Kurt Russell and a very young. All right, let's just preface this. They're very young. This movie takes place. Was shot in the year 1994.
Yep, 1994.
So early 90s. So
put it this way: this movie was shot a year before Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. A year before Mortal Kombat, and some of the practical effects look even better. Anyway, but
great practical.
So
effects.
this is a sci-fi. This is a sci-fi movie, and this movie, if you don't know StarGate, which I feel like most people
if you are into sci-fi, you know StarGate.
You know it. It's not for
if you're into sci-fi.
Yeah, this movie spawned a lot of shows.
Spawned a 10-season show,
which is StarGate SG-1 and StarGate Atlantis, and there's been a few other StarGates. And it spawned a whole thing. But funny enough, I do not think it was a book series. So this was an original idea that they came up with back in the 90s. So, and for what it is, it's not the best thing ever. It's no aliens.
No.
It's no aliens. It's
not Predator.
Not Independence Day.
It's not
but it's not that bad. It does have some beats that are really tropey because John and I have
I'll say this for it. It's a creative idea. The entire movie has these amazing concepts and this amazing idea. The actual design and costumes and the practical stuff
effects were amazing.
Are all great. Yeah. Kurt Russell and James Spader, though I have issues with the time period, so they kind of are archetypal characters, I still enjoyed them in their roles. I didn't mind it. I'm one of the people who, I don't mind archetypes. I don't mind cliche. As long as it fits. As long as it's done well. As long as you do it well.
As long as you do it well and you kind of embrace it, then you're like, oh, okay.
And they did do that in this movie. But,
So basically, let's start with the premise. The premise is this movie stars Daniel something.
Yeah, I just call him Daniel.
Because I don't think he has a last name.
No, just say it. It's like...
It's something. His name's Dr. Daniel Jackson. Sorry, Daniel Jackson, who is basically, he's kind of the ancient alien guy of this world. He has this evidence, or he has these theories about ancient Egypt, and no one believes him. He's down on times.
It's stereotypical early 90s scientist shit. Yeah. He's the smartest guy in the world.
But he's
quirky, and people don't understand him. Right, they don't think he's cool. You've seen it.
Yeah, you've seen it. And basically, he gets approached by the United States military. Very shadily, as Deshaun pointed out, which was it kind of was a little shady. Basically, and they offer him a job to translate this giant stone that this person found way back in the day. So that kind of kicks it off. And so if you know anything about StarGate, then you know that it's about the StarGate, the wormhole device that they use to travel between worlds.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it kicks off from there. So basically, Daniel figures out how to make it work. They make it work, and they go to this planet.
He figures it out pretty quick.
And pretty quick.
Like I say, it's the standard. You've seen this before. Scientist. He walks in the room, immediately starts correcting.
Yeah, because there's a scene basically where he's explaining to all the different. Well, basically like the Department of Defense, I guess, because every branch was in there that was in that room that day, and basically explained. And the guy was like, "You basically in 15 days, he basically just solved it, which took them 15 years." So.
Like I say, it's a trope, and it's all the time. It's something that's used all the time to really just get across that, he's a genius. He's the missing piece.
Yeah, basically, he figures it out. They activate the StarGate, and shenanigans ensue from there.
Yeah.
If you have, I don't want to spoil it 100% because I do want people to see it because it did spawn a whole genre. Well, not a whole genre. It spawned a whole legacy of
the whole ancient alien thing is
in general.
This really built that up
this
a lot.
Definitely built that up.
This is the first show show or movie to really like go head first into that concept. It's a concept that's been around
for a long time,
for a very long time.
I felt like maybe put in the mainstream before most people even thought about it.
Yeah,
I think most movies probably back then kind of thought of it as kind of like a concept, but they never pushed it more than that. This one was just like, oh no, this guy.
What if it's real? Like
what if it's real?
That's the whole premise. Like, what if it's real? What if aliens really are, what came down and helped us advance?
Yeah, and that's basically what happened. And so, all right, so let's talk about pros and cons. Which one you want to do first? Because there's a lot of both. Like, there's a lot of pros and there's a few cons.
Really, all my pros, I kind of ended up giving up top, really, which is the costume design.
The practical effects.
The practical effects are great. I think they still stand up a lot. Oh, a lot of the practical effects still stand up and are pretty cool looking.
Yeah, because the StarGate itself wasn't CGI. Someone had to have built that damn thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, damn, I want to give props to that dude.
James Spader and Kurt Russell are solid in their roles.
Yeah, yeah. So Kurt Russell plays a character called, his rank and name Colonel Jack O'Neill, who basically, his job is, he's basically the defender. He gets brought back into the military as like the security detail.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's like the gun-ho security guy, just I have my orders and I'm going to follow them.
Well, he's not totally gun-ho. He's pretty calm and cool and collected, actually.
Well, no, gun-ho as in like he's...
Yeah.
He has his orders and he plans on following them.
And the concept itself and the ideas that they're dealing with are, as a fan of fantasy and as a fan of sci-fi, it's just a fun thought. Even when I'm watching it, because I do have a couple problems, a few problems with the movie, but even those problems, I was like, you know what? As a concept, I've been meaning to make a series of videos called Great Concept, Poor Execution.
This one wasn't like that.
This one wasn't that bad of an execution, but the concept was a great concept. It's a fantastic concept. Yeah. The idea of it was great. It's just bogged down by a couple things that I'll get into later, but you can go ahead and give your pros.
So, based on my pros are everything he just said. I think the creativity was just so well done. Like I said, the idea, like, humanity discovered this wormhole that they didn't know what to do with for so many years, and then, and they finally figured it out, and as curiosity does, we crossed through that threshold, and it was really interesting. I did like, too, that there was a few things. As a military guy, there were a few things in that movie which they got right and kind of wrong, but I loved it how they mixed and matched it. Like, for example, if you're a military guy in uniform, you're not supposed to wear a cover inside a building. And they did that, but at the other times they showed wrong uniform times.
They took their hats off.
Yeah, they took their hats off to go inside Jack's house, and then I'm like, oh, that's cool. But then later on they did something else. I was like, oh, that's not cool. So kind of, but that usually never detracts the movie. I just love pointing it out. It's just kind of fun to point it out.
You point it out every time it happens.
Yeah, I do it. That's a tradition for me. If I see that, if I see military people with a hat inside, I say, dude, take your fucking cover off indoors. But anyway, so I really don't have much more pros than that. Like I said, the story I thought was okay. I didn't think it was that great either. Like I said, after 15 years of not seeing it, I mean, it's not quite what I remember.
Look, I watched other movies years later that were awful.
Yeah, true. This is not awful.
It's far from
I'm glad
awful.
It mostly held up to what it was, because I remember watching this with my dad years ago and being like, whoa, this is so cool. And now I'm like, it's mostly cool. Mostly. There's a little bit in there. But I kind of want to get in the negatives, because there are a few. And I do want to kind of get into the TV, not into the TV shows, but like I said, this whole thing spawned like so many TV shows and stuff, and it didn't have a book.
There's not a lot of the logic in the world doesn't quite make sense.
It doesn't.
I told Seth from the jump, like, so this ancient god Ra, this ancient alien with this advanced technology, this huge giant pyramid ship has like 10 guards,
pretty much.
I guess like.
Well, it's one of those things where, again, it's like the movie kind of tries to tell you, you don't really just assume he has more men, but again, you don't see it. Like, show, not tell. It's kind of like the whole thing. And they didn't do either.
That, and he's very cliche.
Yeah, very cliche.
And not in a... And I just got done saying I don't mind cliches if it's done well, but it wasn't done well.
This one was not done well.
It wasn't done well.
Ra as a villain was... It was fascinating that I did this alien who's lived for like tens of thousands of years, is so advanced, but he just decides, once he gets a hold of O'Neill's bomb, and he was just like, I'm gonna send it back there and blow it up. I'm like, why?
There's no reason.
There's no reason to do that. It's just kind of like...
I mean, hell, his very presence was kind of just like, why would you yourself come to, like, the concept they're putting out there is since they opened a portal to the gate and went through it, that's why he came here to investigate it. But why would you yourself, the king of this empire, that Seth's telling me it's an empire that spans
the show fleshes it out, but again, they don't show it here. That's another problem I have. Yeah.
Come here.
Yeah, come here, and like I said, because as far as Rod knows, they don't have any other coordinates to get anywhere else. All they have is these between these two worlds. So, and really, in Rod's case, he just destroys the StarGate.
And Rod's just kind of a dude because once he is a dude, like that's it. I mean, he's not that difficult of a bad guy. No, he's not
a god that you can easily kill him. It's just he does have advanced technology that looks impressive and it does act impressively, but he's still a dude. He's just an alien wearing a human skin.
That and the one thing that clearly wasn't going to age well was the CGI.
No, the CGI.
When the helmets come down, oh my god!
So when his guards have these animal helms that clearly they're trying to wink that this is what the Egyptians thought their gods were, and so that's why they look like that. And when they hit the button to like retract it to show that they have a human face. And they're just dudes, and that initial incident, me and Deshaun were like, that did not age well. No.
That was pretty bad.
I think you and I cringed. You were like, ugh.
Not to mention, I didn't want to get into this, but I have to acknowledge it.
Here we go. You know what? For all of you anti-SJWs out there, here it comes. Here it comes.
I've got to get some shit for this. But the main character, Jackson, scientist, main character. I mean, they did the cliche thing where the white guy goes to the foreign land and, picks up the foreign girl in the foreign place.
To be fair.
And this is a land where it's nothing but brown people except for the one white girl in this entire fucking
We're just pointing this out.
It was just so funny.
We're just pointing this out because Deshaun literally said it and I was just like, oh damn, you're right.
I was like, is she the only white girl in this crowd?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. We wouldn't really care about that if it was consistent. If there were a lot more white people around.
That. I was like, if it was like a battling of white people,
we're like, okay, fine. She's just a descendant of one of the white guys. One of the white people live here.
Nothing but brown people as far as the eye can see, except the one white girl who happens to be in love with the fucking main character. Because they couldn't let that white dude have some brown sugar. Just couldn't do it.
No.
1994 was a little too hot and steamy for that.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's the thing. It's like, you got to understand, too, this movie did come out in the early 90s, so again, no one really thought about that stuff back then. All we're doing is pointing it out. It's just funny to point out. It was just
really funny. It was just really funny.
Oh, no, this was the other one that got you. Remember the soldier that got shot?
The first soldier who died.
The first soldier that actually we see die was the black dude that died. I mean,
he didn't get thrown in a pod.
Yeah, he didn't get thrown in a cell. He didn't get knocked over unconscious. No, that dude went.
That was so funny that all the other ones got knocked unconscious except for him.
They do kill the other soldiers eventually.
That shit was just so funny.
But it's funny he was the first one.
It's just because we were just talking about it, and it was just like, not to mention the romance doesn't work at all. The romance with the doctor is just...
Okay, so the thing is, let us explain that real quick, because this is how it goes. And I'm not kidding you. This is how it goes. He gets to the village. They kind of lock eyes a little bit here and there. He goes to this private room where these women are cleaning him, and he's all by himself. And then she comes in to, offer herself to him in more ways than one. Basically, she showed him her tits, and he fell in love. That's him.
I mean,
because after that scene where he covers her back up, like no, you don't have to do that. They talk maybe twice.
They maybe spend not on screen. On screen, they maybe spend like 30 minutes, maybe less, to like 20. But in universe, in the canon, they maybe spent about a couple hours talking.
A couple hours to about even less, a day, if that, maybe a few hours together.
And they were in love.
And later on, she basically says because he was like, you said we're married, and then she's like, well, no, I didn't tell anyone that because I told everyone you didn't want me when we first met, blah blah blah, and he just kisses her. I'm looking at Deshaun like, oh, what?
That's how love works, Seth.
Apparently that's how love works. Because apparently Jackson was such a fucking nerd, he couldn't get laid.
I was like, the only way, Jackson sucks so bad that the only way he could get laid is if he went to an entirely another universe across the galaxy.
To hook up with the only white
chick. To hook up with the only white chick in a crap.
Which, by the way, these guys apparently came from ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
So...
That any sense. But it's the times.
It's not Gods of Egypt bad.
It's the times. No.
It's not that bad.
No, Gods of Egypt should have been called whitewashing the movie.
Yeah,
that's what that was.
That's what that was. This was nowhere near that.
That wasn't that bad.
There's nowhere near that. But it was a little bit hysterical
Honestly,
to point out.
all the racial things that I picked, it kind of made fun of.
It was good fun.
It didn't seem like it was malicious or nothing. It was just the time.
No.
It was just the time.
It was the time, and no one cared. It was just like, but it's just funny to point out. It really is, because, like, for example, they don't kill the one few white soldiers until later. But like I said, the first soldier to die at the hands of Ra's men was the black dude, and it was kind of funny to go, wait, no one else is dead.
The first one of Ra's men to die was Jumon Hansu.
Well, one of them died. Well, no. Ra killed him. That doesn't count.
No. Hansu got shot. No. You know what? No, that's not true. The general shot one dude when he was trying to, get to him. But
yeah. So, but like I said, it was really all in good fun. Like I said, I don't think they actively were like no, because because they wouldn't have went all that out of their way to get so many backups that were darker complexion.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have went out of their way to, but it was just kind of funny how he just decided to hook up with the one white girl you do see in the movie.
It was just so noticeable. It was just noticeable. It was
very noticeable.
Because, no one else was.
And basically, like I said, we're not really, criticizing it 100% for that. It's more just funny to point out. It's just fun to point that shit out. Kind of like I'll point out the whole, cover thing. And that's all it really is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. Unless, like I said, unless it is maliciously
I doubt that. I doubt
unless it was, then we would say that's kind of a shitty thing to do, but they didn't do that.
No.
They were just trying to have fun making a sci-fi movie, and they just didn't care.
The concept, you know what probably happened, honestly? This is 1994. Probably happened is they probably wanted to cast a woman of darker skin, but then they were like, oh, we can't really do that. We need this, and they were like, okay, well, we'll just beat you there. It was probably a give and take.
It was probably a give and take because a lot of the backups on the planet were darker skinned, so it's just like. Yeah.
I wouldn't have cared. It's just that she just happened to be the only one, which is just weird. But anyways, moving on. There are other problems. Like I said, the CGI is kind of bad. The villain's cliche. At the end of the day, the soldiers were just kind of lame.
Yeah, that was another problem I had. The soldiers themselves, because aliens. They understood the grunts were grunts, and they were kind of meant to be fodder, but at least they tried to give them character.
Yeah, the grunts had character to them, so,
because there was a scene where they're, playing Five Finger Fillet with the android, and they're like, oh, shit, and they're, all having fun with each other. The gunny sergeant he's the Marine gunny sergeant. They all had character to them, and freaking Hicks was, the sleazy, no, not Hicks.
No, that wasn't Hicks. That was, I know you're talking about.
Yeah, well, the lieutenant was, some untrained, some untested.
Yeah, Hicks was pretty calm, cool, collected.
Yeah, and so it's just so it's just but these soldiers had nothing except for O'Neill and that one dude Kowalski. That was and then even he had very limited speaking. So it's you never really got to see him too much. The only time the soldiers really kind of show the character is when they basically toss Jackson's suitcase off a thing and aren't you supposed to be doing something getting us out of here? Woof.
Yeah, they really didn't do much to it. They were just there.
They really didn't do too more than that. And like I said, they were there to serve a purpose. They kind of did. Yeah. They served the purpose. They were there to protect the team, and they were fodder. That's kind of I guess that was the point they were trying to make. And I really can't think of anything else off the top of my head.
That's about it. I mean, those minor things, but those are the big ones.
But I do encourage you to watch it if you are a sci-fi fan. You do. If you're a sci-fi, you owe yourself a watch.
Just accept that it's dated.
It is dated.
It's dated in the time prime.
It didn't age 100% well. It's not Enter the Dragon.
It's not spoiled milk.
Yeah, it's not spoiled milk. No.
But it ain't Enter the Dragon. It ain't Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
It ain't Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
It ain't The Godfather.
It ain't The Godfather.
It ain't one of those movies that you're just like, damn, man.
It aged enough to where you notice a little bit of hair on the bread. But most of the bread's still there.
You can chop it off.
You can chop it off. You chop that off. It's not like you pick it up and you're like, that shouldn't be green.
like the whole thing, like this part of it, you can kind of chop it in half. And,
So I think that's really, like I said, I don't really have anything else to add. Like I said, but really. I do say that if you are a sci-fi fan, you owe yourself a watch.
I'll say that too. If you're a sci-fi fan and you haven't seen this movie, you should
owe yourself a watch.
You should see it. You should at least see it once.
And then if you really like the concept, I encourage you, because StarGate SG-1 is on Netflix, watch the show, too.
All 10 seasons.
All 10 seasons, because the SG-1 follows it, I think it's 3 years later. And it follows the story afterward. That's also where you meet Christopher Judge, who is the voice actor of Kratos in the new God of War. So weird come around there. Indeed. Anyway, so thank you so much for joining us on.
Wait, you didn't give a score.
Oh, that's right, we didn't give a score. Neither did you.
As a movie, this is like a 5.
I'd give it a 6. I'd be a little bit more forgiving.
I'd give it a 5.5.
It was still entertaining. It was still very entertaining. It's not perfect.
As a classic, though, I'd give it a 7. I'd give it a 7. I'd maybe even give it an 8.
7.5.
I might even go 8, just because the concepts and the ideas,
and like I said, the practical sets they built,
the stuff, the heaviness,
like,
it's soaking sci-fi.
Yeah.
And as a classic, this is something that if you are a sci-fi fan, you should at least see. So as a movie, as a classic piece of sci-fi, if you're just a casual
moviegoer who doesn't care about genre, I wouldn't recommend it.
But if you're a sci-fi fan, if you're a fan of that genre, you gotta at least do yourself a favor and check it out at least once.
Plus, if you're a fan of the TV shows, then yeah, definitely go back and watch what started it all.
But I don't particularly think it's a good movie.
No, it has a lot of.
It has a lot of things in it that are just concepts and whatnot. That are just treats for sci-fi.
I give it a 6. It's above average, but it's not. It isn't like wowing, because like I said, it didn't age all that well. But like I said, as a sci-fi classic, you owe yourself a watch. And if you did like it somewhat, you do owe yourself to watch the shows. But anyway, so I give it a 6. You gave it a 5.
I gave it a
classic-wise. I gave it a 7.5.
I give it an 8 as a classic.
Give it an 8 as a classic. So that's our review of the original StarGate. So anyway, guys, thank you for joining us on
Comic Game Movie Show.
Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. You're going to see more of us in the future, and we shall see you
on the next one.
Goodbye.